Hey, so like I'm gonna explain the days of the week and what each days of the week represent and shit like that, and how the government be using those days and stuff like that to push certain narratives of like frequency vibrations and energies and shit like that. Now, all the way down to your birthday and stuff like that, when you was born, you was still in this energy or in this space itself. I'm just explaining using English and shit like that, like these different sun, moon, and planets and shit like that, of how the 7 days of the week was cultivated and shit like that. And especially after like pilgrims and them colonizing America and shit like that, like why they calling it these titles and why on those different days they push out certain energies, also combined with the astrological blueprint and shit like that, all the way down to like, we in Virgo season right now, and then the moon being in Sagittarius and shit like that. Also adding that on top of that, of um like different energies after colonizing, aka like starting from the 1700s and shit like that, of the different ways of how they saw people during like those days in during those days in Pacific, and them cosplaying like Native Americans and shit like that, and taking their whole spiritual system and turning it into that all the way down to 7 days of the week, the seven chakra systems and shit like that, seven dimensional shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And then Venus is goddamn uh Venusian day, Wednesday, right? Venus is Wednesday, and that deals with love, value, and appreciation, compromise, relatability, and stuff like that. So that's that pocket and that vibration and shit like that. So towards Libra shit. And then Thursday is Mars Day. And I know when it comes to them, Mars equals like war and shit like that. But war is like a concept they made up based upon constant confusion and shit like that. And what they went to war for all the way down to colonizing and shit like that. But it is what your passions, motivations, and intentions and goddamn the energy you put behind the action, like the motivation, the intention behind why you act a certain way and stuff like that, right? And get like, you know what I'm saying, like root chakra type of shit, right? So getting more into that pocket on Thursday, right? And then if this was like, the different days of the week, so whatever you did on Sunday, on Thursday you start acting out way more passion and motivation behind why you did that thing on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? And then Friday is goddamn Jupiter. So Jupiter deals with knowledge of wisdom, expansion, contraction, right? Experiences, higher meanings of reasonings, having your own philosophical point of view, morality, God, faith, education, and shit like that, right? So being more in that pocket, and then also that's also what they pushing during those days and shit like that. A lot of shit dealing with like education and stuff like that. And then goddamn Saturday is Saturn Day. It's Saturn Day, so that deals with something going on in reality, how one sees reality, all the way down to structure and foundations and boundaries, restriction, and limits and shit like that, right? So I was born on Saturday. So is it a shit that they pushing in general, or the type of energy you gotta be in general and shit like that? And that's like that last day of the week. So when they be like Sunday to Sabbath day, they really throwing you off. The Sabbath day is actually on Saturday. Those are the days you're supposed to be like of like rest and shit like that. Or the shit when they be talking about praise and worship, which is really just sun worship and shit like that. You really worshiping their God, they money God, they cosplaying God, other people cultures and spirituality and shit like that, and what they doing. On Saturday, you supposed to do that for, you know what I'm saying, all the other days of the week, right? And that's your day of like your actual Sabbath, your actual day of rest, your actual day of like, dang man, like I actually did everything I was supposed to set out this week and shit like that, because of this, that, and the third. Me being a walking example, walking star of like the different days of the week and different pockets, different energies and shit like that, right? And me being aligned and me going through different transitions and shit like that, for the most part. So, right, and then repeat that cycle again on Sunday and shit like that. So this just explains the different pockets of the days of the week, right? And where they even got that concept from in the first place, all the way down to putting that down on the Gregorian calendar and shit like that. And then they using English, which is England-like, in a bastardized Latin, right? Even though they're from the UK. And we're in America right now. So they'll let you know right then. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just a translator language, even though we know most people in this content, which is Native Americans. So that's the concept, again, of cosplaying some shit, all the way down to, you know what I'm saying? Like I just said, the Gregorian calendar, how the start of the year for them is January 1st and shit like that, even though we know that's like the fucking, the cardinal portion going to the fixated portion of winter and shit like that, right? And then the real first day of the year and shit like that is really spring, aka March 20th or 21st, Aries season and shit like that, when we getting that springing off renewal, that fermented and germinating the seed, some new shit going on and shit like that. That's the actual first day, but that's them cosplaying again based upon sun worship all the way down to Christmas and shit like that, and the Saturnalia type of concept, and their holidays and their holy days. So you pay attention to those things instead of your own holy days and shit like that, your own internal natures, your own way of how you want to go into the things. So like the holy, holy, holy and shit like that. The holy being the physical, the holy, holy being your mind, the holy, holy, holy being the spirit, your space that you're in and shit like that. To make you focus on their shit instead of your shit. So you can give yourself these different gifts and talents and presence and listen to like the different visions and like how you see things and the ancestors and shit like that. It's just taking you away from, hold on. It's just taking you away from your own internal natures, right? So you can pay attention to their shit, but they're cosplaying something else. So it's synthetic. So it's really a double damn. You know what I'm saying? If you play out that characteristic, right, They just cosplaying something else. So it's just like it's like they putting themselves in a hell. It's putting themselves down a rabbit hole. But they're putting you in their darkness by you being the walking example from you upholding their thing. So they being like the puppet master and you just being a puppet or voodoo doll of the character that they're displaying. But they're already cosplaying somebody else. All the way down to just starting the 1700s of colonization and shit like that. Right? Because that's who they learned that from. People in America. But before it was called America. So Native Americans and shit like that. All the way down to the South American and shit like that. Right? And the Caribbeans and shit like that. So it's like, yeah, like, once you understand this, you actually know how to move in a proper transitions based upon different seasons, right? Spring, summer, fall, winter, right? And, you know what I'm saying? Aries season, Taurus season, Gemini season, Cancer season, goddamn Leo season, Virgo season, fucking, Libra season, Scorpio season, Sag season, Capricorn season, Aquarius season, and fucking Pisces season, and shit like that. And do these things on, you know what I'm saying? Create and cultivate your own thing outside of their shit so you don't get lost. Because that's all that is. It's like them. It's like you going back to getting lost into their shit, right? And then you getting lost into their own language too. And their Gregorian calendar, how they're tracking time, so they know what narratives push out during certain days and during certain times and shit like that. During the different transitions and shit like that. All the way down to retrogrades. And that's them doing that too. You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah.